Well, hi folks. I hope you're well. I hope you can hear me. I'm doing this video in my downstairs office, my dog's room actually. That's where they sleep. Anyway, it's far more convenient and it's a bit quieter sometimes with the aeroplanes taking off and all that. This video is going to be a bit of a mix. I try to keep them varied, as you know. I want to start off early with, some of what I say you might think he's a lunatic, he's a misogynist, woman hater. He's wrong, quite frankly. I don't expect you to agree with everything I say. These are my thoughts. Right or wrong, they're my thoughts. And I'm always open to persuasion, as they say. Death and taxes and persuasion is probably the way to run your life. Always having an open mind. And it's like a parachute, isn't it? If it's open, it works. If it's closed, it fails and doesn't work. So, first topic. Several topics to whet your appetite, really. Society seems to be on the increase. The figures within our society seem to be on the increase of teenage pregnancies are going through the roof. Marital breakups are going through the roof for various reasons. But most of the time, it is that the women generally are far more mature than men at a younger age. That's true. And women get saddled with a pregnancy that they can't get out of without having a termination. And the men are free to do a runner, you know, as they often do, leaving the poor girl in the lurch. Now, right or wrong, that's right or wrong, of course, but there has to be a reason for the guy doing a runner. Well, we can think about some reasons. One is she trapped him and he felt entrapped. Entrapment is a big one, because maybe the girl just wants to have a baby and it's a unilateral decision on her part. Maybe she forgot to take the pill and simply does not want a termination, and she's not willing to give the baby up for adoption. Maybe she was pregnant by joint decision between the both of them and then suddenly discovered he was having a fling. Or maybe she was and he doesn't trust the fact that the baby is his. So there's many reasons. I'm sure you can make some of your own up. I don't mean make them up because they're false, but you can reason why. Ultimately, the girl will go and have the baby if she hasn't had a termination. And the men have absolutely no rights in stopping the woman having the termination. I think that's a miscarriage of justice, excuse the pun. But ultimately it's the woman's body and the baby isn't born, but it's still a life. And for whatever reason, that woman can have the overriding opinion and decision and influence on the outcome over the chap who might want the baby. And it takes two to tango. These are my thoughts. She got herself there as much as he got her there. And if she doesn't want it and he does, that's a dilemma, isn't it? What would you do? It's a tough one, because what she then suddenly becomes is a surrogate, isn't she? She becomes an incubator. She doesn't want the baby, he does. Wouldn't it be fair that the pregnancy goes to full term and she is handing over the baby to him then? That's a rarity, I'm sure, but it's a consideration that we have to think about. It might happen. Maybe it's his baby and he's discovered that he doesn't want his baby being brought up by the guy she's been having a fling with, even if he can prove it's his baby by amniocentesis blood test. Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? So Our society is becoming increasingly swamped by single-parent girls, single-parent mothers. And they have, deservedly or not, a bad reputation. Because one of the advices I always gave my son was, don't date a girl who has a child from another man. There's plenty of girls without children, and it's never easy, but sometimes you see nature takes its course and you fall in love, I suppose, with head over heels with this girl. And it's a case of love me, love my dog, metaphorically speaking. And that's a dilemma. But I've always said to my son, do not, under any circumstances, date or have a relationship with a girl who is in charge of another man's child. You are heading for the rocks. It doesn't matter, you see, how lovey-dovey they are and how accepting the man is of the child. The child might be very young, younger the better, I suppose, or it could be an older child. But ultimately, rows will happen. And as sure as God made little green apples, that man, your son, my son, might have to want to, at one stage, discipline the little boy or little girl that is not his. And this is where the antagonism starts to happen in the relationship. Don't tell my son what to do. Don't treat my son like this. Don't tell my son. And how would that make you feel if it was you, if you were the chap? Not very pleasant, really. Because you think, look, I'm either part of your life or I'm not, and I'm supposed to, you have to read the riot act before you go any further, don't you? If you're involved with such people, because, yeah, maybe you do love one another, but her love, you see, goes out the window, and she will always put the child first if she's any good as a mother. And sometimes she'll have to back you up if you're the adoptive father. I say adoptive quite loosely. So, as I say, my advice is for any man, quite frankly, any single man, is do not date women who have children from another man. But so many men do. It's unbelievable. And it's a really slippery slope. And it takes a special kind of man to take on another man's children or child. I mean, there's plenty of it happening. There's a lot of this, stepchildren, a lot of stepfathers and stepmothers. Rare to get a stepmother, but often it's rare that a man is ever left in charge of children, because children in relationship breakups normally go to the woman, right or wrong. Maybe she's a lousy mother, but he just can't, legally, courts seem to think that young children belong with their mother. I'm inclined to disagree with that. I think it should be on a case-by-case basis, because I've met some fantastic single-parent fathers who are outstanding, and I've met some dreadful women who are in charge of children. Not that I go on them, but I know that there are dating sites, and the last thing the poor the sucker finds out is, has a first date, and suddenly on the first date she drops the bombshell that she's got a baby. It's a big, is that the time I've got to go for me sort of deal, and that's it. Just retreat facing forwards is probably the best advice. But it's a sad state of affairs, isn't it? Because it's a very complicated thing, because there are some wonderful women who have been left in the lurch by complete jerks with a baby. It's not the baby's fault. That's the thing to consider. The secondary consideration, of course, is that, A, if you can cope, if you're a man, Could you cope? Would you be prepared to take on the mantle, the responsibility? Because I tell you, you're not adopting a doggy here. You are taking over a life and supporting a life of a child until it is 18 years old. And that's a heck of a responsibility. And it takes a special kind of guy to do that and stand up and face the music, because if he loves the woman enough. But the problem is, there is going to be a time in that relationship, if they get together, that the child will come between them. And it's mother's nature that she would normally back up her child against anybody and everything, regardless of whether the child is right or wrong. It's a matter of principle, because she has the mother of, mothers protect their children. It's like a dog protecting its puppies. And they do themselves an awful lot of damage, and they may lose the man by being overprotective, overzealous about everything, being precious about it. And some women, they want their cake and eat it. They'll want a man in their life to support her and the child maybe, and ease the burden of having 100% childcare taken off their shoulders. But then it'll be one-way traffic. What is he getting out of the deal? That's always the dilemma. And life would be so much better if you don't get involved. No matter how wonderful the woman is, how wonderful the child is. Sometimes life is better if you just don't take the risk. And that's what I say to my son. You might meet somebody outstanding or a wonderful child, but it is still, in the back, you have to have this feeling in your own mind, what am I bringing to the table and what is she bringing into the table, and who's got the more of a responsibility? Her, because she has the child, or me, because I'm taking 2 on and she's only taking 1 on. That's the difficulty. Maybe she's got more than 1 child, you see. If there's 3 of them and 1 of you, it's a 1-to-3 ratio, and it's simply not fair. But a lot of men do this, and credit to them. But I do have friends who have stepchildren, male friends, and we have discussions all the time. And they complain more than they sing the praise, because they do recognise that there is this invisible barrier where, he knows people actually self-regulate. He will self-regulate how far he gets involved with her children. Whether they're married or not, they will still be her children. So my advice to my son is, don't date single parent mummies. Okay. The big question on my lips is, why is she single with a baby of another man? That's got to be the question. What is she seeking? Is she wanting a relationship, or is she wanting a meal ticket and a daddy? Because she feels incomplete. But there are a lot of women who simply get pregnant because they want a baby and they don't want a man in their life. At least they're honest. And there's plenty of people out there, single women, who are just getting impregnated by a sperm bank at great cost, because they don't want a man in their life. That is at least honest, although albeit unethical in my opinion. I would ban the practice. But all the alternative for her would be to find a willing partner. If she's not a bad looking babe in the looks department, she'll have a one-night stand, deliberately get pregnant and terminate the relationship. And hey ho, she's pregnant, she's got what she wanted. So this industry that's springing up is disgraceful, because I think a child deserves to know its real father and its real mother. And it's a human right, and yet there are commercial ventures out there going on where the child will never get to meet its parent, its father. And this is a dreadful, it's a horrible commercial thing that's going on at the moment. and it's not something I would want to have anything to do with. Yet there are men out there who are sperm donors. Very altruistic of them to, pull one off in a jar and take it round and get paid for that, and they'll provide a photo and DNA profile, yada yada yada, and they'll get paid for this. And there are laboratories out there that have these sort of things. Flick through a catalogue and choose your man. Fully health tested, George, he's 5'9", reasonable physique, professional person, very IQ intelligent, yada yada yada. Well, yeah, I'll have a bit of his then. It just seems a bit to me. But isn't this a sad state of our world, how twisted we all are in this world? So let's kiss it, KISS. Let's keep it simple, stupid. Yeah, I always think that nature knows best. You fall in love with a young girl, you get married, you have a child. But sometimes it's a case of ready, fire, aim, isn't it? Because, she's pregnant, now what do you do? Because the poor sod now thinks that he's being entrapped. So he's starting off the marriage, because they're only getting married because she's up the duff. You know how it is, and they don't last. So there's no real point in it. Some last, I'm sure. But he will always feel a bit under pressure. He had to give them the choice. It's either that or the child support agency on his back, because she can prove it's his, etc. Or the guy does a runner and disappears, never to be seen again, and that takes some work, doesn't it, to do that? That happens a lot. People just disappear. Where's the father? Dunno. No, it doesn't stop him trying to find him, though. But he's on the run. And sometimes looking at some of these women, I don't blame him. I think I might be the same. But immoral as you might. I mean, men have various reasons for running away. And they should. Leaving the wife literally to hold the baby. But she has the choice, doesn't she? She can get the baby adopted, or she can, if it's an early breakup of their relationship because he finds out she's pregnant, she can have a termination. But if she's that way inclined, some women just go out, get a one-night stand, get pregnant because they want a baby in a council house. So that's what happens. Some ways it's the only way the woman can get away from her parents, maybe, and can't afford to live alone, so she'll become a one single parent family and go to get social housing as a single parent. And then she'll get child benefit and all the other stuff. So there's different types of single parents. There's different types of women who have got children already. And we should never be too judgmental on all of them, because they're not all the same. There are some really sick in the head women out there. And all they're after is a meal ticket. Other women are genuinely nice. Maybe her husband died, or boyfriend died, or got killed on his motorbike or something, and she's left holding the baby, literally. And she might be a terrific girl. Heartbroken, and she meets this fella. And it's a special guy that takes on another man's child. That's what I'm trying to say. If a man does take on another man's child because he loves the woman who's got the child, she should be extra caring about that man, because it takes a lot for a man to pay for another man's child throughout its life, and that's what's going to have to happen if he's got balls of steel and man's up to his responsibility. I know a couple of people that do this, and they're great. I think how altruistic is that? And the children love him, she loves him, and they end up having a child of their own, and happy families. But on the internet at the moment, there's a channel dedicated to, well, it's probably run by a bunch of misogynists, of men who have been jilted and hurt and all these precious little things. They're not really men, are they? These are the players that have had enough of women, and they almost become misogynistic. And it's rather a sad state of affairs. Certainly in America, there's this big thing called men going their own way, MTTOWs. And look at the internet, and they are bitter and twisted, and they're often, these men are living alone, they're being jilted or kicked out or had a breakup with their girlfriends, and then they become misogynists. Because, well, you don't hear both sides of the story, do you? And you look at them and the men are always saying how wonderful they are and they gave her everything and she wanted too much and she was this and she was that. But you really got to listen to both sides. Because half the men I see who are men going their own way, I wouldn't have married and I wouldn't have had a relationship if I was a woman with them. They look like pigs. And, you know, they're just not for me, but that's me. But maybe. But these guys are serial daters. They find them, feel them, F them and forget them. That's what happens. And then they get bitter and twisted because women just tell them to get lost. And they end up living lonely lives in flats as the jilted boyfriend or jilted husband from a woman who simply had enough of his philandering. So we are complicated, aren't we? And you cannot bag all these people together because they're so different. It's not one law. This is a problem. We have one law that suits all things, and it doesn't work like that. There's so many variable factors to consider. And if I had a daughter who got pregnant by her boyfriend, I really think that marriage is the last thing they should rush into. Because I don't want him acting under duress and felt trapped or entrapped. Because the woman's equally stupid for getting pregnant in the first place, with all the plethora of ways that you can avoid being pregnant. An unplanned pregnancy, there's simply no excuse nowadays for it, apart from stupidity. Oh, I missed my pill, I didn't think it would matter, or, oh, forgot to wear a condom, we were drunk. Well, there's a price for everything, isn't there, really? And it's just the responsibility of the man that it is the woman. My son has a girlfriend, she's okay. She's okay. That's all. If I was a school teacher, I would say he could do better. But I don't say that, and hopefully he won't see this video, but I don't have an opinion. If he's happy, he's happy. If he's not, he's not. All I know is that, you know, one man's one man's medicine's another man's, yes. Well, let's not go there. But I'm not interfering. He's 26 years old and he does his thing. But my biggest fear is her getting pregnant. And it's, oh, Dad, you know, we're not silly. Well, he might not be silly. She might be. You see, because there's no return. There's a point to no return, isn't there? And then I know he's the sort of character that would actually marry her as a sort of honourable thing to do if she did become pregnant. And she knows it. That's the worry. And if ever they go through a sticky patch, she might just pull that one on him. So, yeah, doting mothers who have sons are always worried about the girlfriends pulling a fast one. And he's always sort of said to me, it's not going to happen, Dad. It happens to a lot of people, as equally as intelligent as he is. Because when a woman wants it to trap the man and she's in danger, or maybe she thinks she's in danger of losing him, or the novelty's wearing off for him, it's always something that these misguided women will pull out of the bag, pull out of the hat, proverbial rabbit, or in this case, a baby. So that's entrapment, isn't it? And she would deserve all she gets for entrapment, wouldn't she? Destined to be a single parent mother all her life, and well, you know, if the DNA proves it and it is my son's child, he's unfortunately going to be lumbered financially for the mistake that he has to pay for that was her fault, or her what she engineered. So parents of young men are always worried about their sons impregnating girls who can be very manipulative, because it's a feline brain. There's no doubt in my mind that women act like cats. They truly do, when you consider it. If you look at the character of men are dogs, quite frankly, and women are cats. We're not really destined to be entirely, getting along. On occasions we will have a fight. Men are hunter-gatherers, if you like. Even dogs are out there sniffing around. They're always sniffing the corners, always looking at other bitches, aren't they? No pun intended. But the women, you see, the cats, the felines, they want the comforts. They want life at everybody else's expense for the most part, if they can get away with it. Most of them are lazy. They only want to be petted when they want to get petted, and they resent having to put out in any other way unless they want to. And this is a cat. There's no two ways, and that's why the women are considered the feline of the species. And I'm inclined to go with that idea, because I've seen so much evidence of the way that cats operate. And have you heard the noise of cats mating? I mean, it's a noise to behold. It really is. Never mind witness. God, do they make a noise. But any tomcat approaching who's not, entirely welcome at that stage soon discovers that he's not welcome by a smack round the face from the cat. Yes. But when the female cat does that, oh boy, tomboys, the tomcats gather round, don't they? And the noise they make. Yes, well, being a parent for us with teenage children is always a worry. That despite what people will say with teenage children, male or female. If you have a son, you only have one dick to worry about, your son. If you have a daughter, you have millions of dicks to worry about. That's the problem. Okay, so you're better off having sons, quite frankly, or very nailed down, moralistic, high moral value daughters who simply say, I wouldn't entrap a man, there's no merit in it, because he'll hate me for it. But so many women, and for men of course, so many women, so little time. I had a t-shirt with that once. I was only allowed to wear it once before my wife made me take it off. It's only a joke, for goodness sake. She didn't see the funny side. Never mind. We live and learn. I've still got the scars. And anyway, so that's it. America, in my opinion, is going down the toilet. I would give America 10 years before there is a civil war. And between 10 years and now, 10 years away and now, look what's going to be happening. There will be huge wars. There will be conscription in America because of the sheer number of wars that are going to be going on. I couldn't believe that Donald Trump was talking about sending 100,000 troops to here and 58,000 troops to there, 1,000 troops. We're talking thousands and thousands of young men and women, someone else's children. Don't see Donald Trump's son, do you? Or his daughter. Well, 2 sons and a daughter. His son-in-law, forget him, but Donald Trump's daughter. Don't see her in the military, on the front line. And I don't see that young Trumpy boy. Yes, little, very aloof young man, being groomed for some reason. Don't see him being conscripted. Donald Trump got out of conscription because he had sore heel protuberances on his bottom of his feet. Okay, like Spurs. Well, all the politicians pull that one. How many politicians actually have children in the armed forces? Oh God, 0.001%. You see, if it was their children being sent off all over the world to fight banker wars and spill their blood, they'd think differently, wouldn't they? They wouldn't be so ready to send other people's children to what is their certain death. Because America, well, when you look at the statistics, America per se, United States of America, have since 1945, and they were 2 years late in that one, by the way, since 1945, they've never won a war since. You name me a war that the Americans haven't started but run away from. Vietnam, total colossal failure. Cambodia, total failure. Iraq, total failure. Afghanistan, total failure. Syria, well, come on. America's never won a war. Not really. Not since 1945 they haven't. And yet they're the biggest warmongers going. They truly are agents provocateurs, aren't they? I have zero respect for the United States. It's all gong with no dinner, in my opinion, is America. They talk a good battle, they talk a good war, they talk a strange history. But look at the history very carefully and tell me, down below, if you can tell me what wars that America have been involved with, that they are personally responsible for winning, that they started, have they? It's a little bit like Mastermind. I've started, so I'll finish. Well, in America's cases, we've started, but we're going to run away. You see, they retreat facing forwards. This is what they do. This is what they do in Iraq and Afghanistan and Iran. Wait till Iran happens, and it is going to happen. It's inevitable, as God made little green apples. America will be crippled, a crippled nation within 10 years. It's already dissolving faster than saccharin in hot tea. They do say it's a wonderful world, but it's a violent, evil, cruel world, and I'm inclined to agree with that. But we must mitigate our damages, mustn't we, by being clever. And my sole responsibility is to love my wife and love my children, give them good moral values and be there for them. And I've done my job. My family have my priority of my time and effort and money all the time. And I cannot say that truly I am a patriot in any way. The only thing I'm being patriotic towards is my family. That's where my duty lies. And you know, England expects every man to do its duty. Yes, look after me and mine. Thanks very much. And I hope you remember what I said. If you have daughters, lock them up or get a chastity belt, or make sure your daughters know the consequence of using "oh, I'm pregnant" as a tool. It's a dreadful thing to do, and it's something to be despised, not supported. And if your sons are out there, always say, put a sock on it, or be prepared to get your wallet out. There's simply no escape from responsibility. That only lies in the hands of politicians and bankers. Catch you tomorrow, folks.